As much as I hate to say it, it looks like it's happening again. No, I'm not talking about iconic images of Chinese protesters and tanks. I'm talking about banks deciding that they actually own your deposits. If you've been in crypto a while, you probably remember the Cyprus Bank Bail-Ins of 2014 that became kind of a rallying cry for the entire crypto space. While this image you're looking at right now made the rounds on social media today, with some claiming it's just a misattributed night rehearsal of a military parade, the real reports of bank runs in China have shown us that this kind of thing can still happen in 2022, and it can still happen in the biggest economies in the world. Ready? Let's go. Today, we're going to discuss the China bank runs and the old adage about your keys, some explosive conflict between two branches of the US government over crypto, an interesting discussion on something important Cardano has over its competitors, and some more previews of a Cardano metaverse. If you are old enough to remember the iconic image I referenced in the intro, or if you're finding value in these videos each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. If you don't know what happened in the Cyprus Bank Bail-Ins, back in 2013, I know earlier I said 2014, they actually exited this rescue program in 2014, but the bail-ins themselves happened in 2013. Back in 2013, Cyprus was in the middle of an economic crisis, and two large banks had failed: Cyprus Popular Bank and Bank of Cyprus. Initially, the plan was that they would bail out the banks by levying the deposits of everybody. Everybody who had deposits in the bank was going to take a little haircut. Of course, a lot of local people in Cyprus had deposits in these banks. They didn't like the idea of this. They showed up and protested en masse in front of the offices of the policymakers deciding all this. Immediately, those policymakers decided that's not what they were going to do. They weren't ready to confront a mob of people whose money they were trying to take. So instead, they levied all of the uninsured deposits at Cyprus Popular Bank and 47.5% of the uninsured deposits in the Bank of Cyprus. The reason why this would work was because the uninsured depositors were offshore people, not citizens of Cyprus, people doing offshore banking in Cyprus. Those people obviously weren't going to show up as a mob in front of their office. Much easier to levy their deposits. For those people trying to do their banking in Cyprus, of course, this was a very unpleasant surprise. You can imagine spending your life building up your financial assets, doing your banking wherever is most advantageous for these people. It was Cyprus for various reasons, and finding that the bank, whose sole job is to take custody of your funds and then give them back to you, had decided they were only going to do one of those two things: just take custody, but not the returning funds part. Just a short time later, this would all seem very, very familiar to the crypto space because we suffered the Mt. Gox collapse. People deposited Bitcoin into Mt. Gox as the main trading platform that was available at the time, only to never see those funds again. There's a saying in crypto that addresses both of these scenarios: not your keys, not your coin. People ask sometimes, what's the killer use case in crypto? We've known all along what the killer use case in crypto is. It's self-custody, being able to take custody of very, very large amounts of money if you want, in a way that no one can confiscate it from you. That's the killer use case of crypto. It's always been the killer use case of crypto. Now we've got a lot of other great use cases that have been enabled by Gen 3 blockchains. We can be much more environmentally friendly, and while we're doing it, we can actually have expressivity and computation and programmability. These are all things that blockchains like Cardano provide. But the original use case, the original best use case for crypto, this self-custody thing, is something that Crypto people forget about all the time when they get their funds stolen in hacks and rug pulls. And the traditional finance world, this is a lesson that the traditional finance world never really learned and still hasn't learned. Unfortunately, people are still finding out about this in 2022. You might have seen posts like this all over social media yesterday. If you didn't, you'll probably see them today. This is Bitcoin Magazine saying the Chinese government is protecting banks with tanks from people after declaring they can't withdraw their money. Not your keys, not your money. I won't play the video, but it basically just shows a bunch of tanks rolling past a bunch of people who were led to believe are protesters. But people responding on social media were quick to point out that the people standing on the side of the road don't seem to be protesting anything. They don't have signs. They don't seem particularly upset about anything. In fact, they're all just kind of using their phones to make video of the tanks rolling by, and they don't really even appear to be saying anything. So others were offering that this is probably just video of a night rehearsal for a military parade. But I think the interesting thing here is that when this started making the rounds, when it started achieving a little bit of virality on social media, it was pretty believable. I mean, I don't know what the case is actually going to turn out to be. I'm kind of leaning towards this being misattributed video, but in either case, it's pretty believable. Right now, I think the global economy is at this weird precipice where it's not too hard to convince people that this was actually a video of the second largest economy in the world protecting its banks from bank runs with tanks. The reason it was so easy was because just a few weeks ago, actually, I guess really just a week ago, we saw reports like this one from CNN. China crushes mass protest by bank depositors demanding their life savings back. And it definitely seemed like there were some protesters actually in front of banks. And we did see security personnel doing things like this. While none of this is as dramatic as tanks rolling past protesters, it probably is very dramatic for the depositors at these banks. Here's a section of this article called Shattered Lives. And definitely that's probably exactly what's happening for the depositors of these banks. If there's a bank run at a bank where you have deposits, you're kind of exactly in that same situation as the offshore depositors in the Cyprus banking crisis. We can always argue about how widespread this actually is, whether or not this is just a couple of tiny banks out in the countryside. But the point is, this is a very powerful use case for crypto. And while we're at it, while we're taking care of this use case, we might as well have the expressivity and energy efficiency of blockchains like Cardano. Moving from conflict to conflict, this was a recent congressional committee session that was all about what the SEC has been doing lately, especially in crypto. So it turns out they actually do have CCTV inside these congressional committee chambers. I wasn't aware of that, but they've got CCTV and we've got the footage. So I'm just going to go ahead and push play on the footage here. Don't ask me why they stay so motionless when they're talking to each other. I don't know. Hello, I'm Tom Emmer, Congressman, and I'm going to ask you, the SEC, some very serious and solemn questions about what you've been doing, especially in crypto. They're very solemn and serious. Look, even my staffer has her solemn and serious face on. Look at my face. It's especially solemn and serious. I am very concerned that you, the SEC, have been regulating through enforcement to extend your jurisdiction. In fact, I've heard about these industry sweeps where you've been sending letters to wide swaths of certain industries like crypto demanding information. Come on, bruh. Those industry sweep letters are totally voluntary, and we at the SEC have no way of forcing them to answer those questions. It's completely voluntary. It's not a big deal at all. Oh, voluntary, huh? Well, we have come to understand that the Enforcement Division has been instructed to make it a bloodbath for anyone who doesn't voluntarily answer those questions. No, bro. There's no bloodbath. There's no one's bathing in blood. We just subpoena them. That is completely unacceptable jurisdictional overreach. No. It's not like that at all. It's very gentle, and it's not even the whole subpoena. It's just the tip of the subpoena. It's just the tip. Unacceptable. Understand, sir. There is a new day coming. Wow, watching this footage, I cannot believe he said that about the subpoena. Wildly inappropriate. Coming back to Cardano proper, there was this great thread today from this poster. He said, new Eternal Wallet, incredible free feature, one transaction, multiple recipients. In the video, you can see how with only one transaction, I sent to 3 of my wallets, some ADA, some Hosky, some drops, and some cornucopias assets. I could have also sent some NFTs, EUTXO, power. And I think a lot of us at this point understand that in Cardano, you can have these transactions with multiple assets and multiple outputs. One of the beautiful things about an EUTXO smart contract powered blockchain, a lot of people in other blockchains don't even realize this is possible, which is why they have such a hard time understanding the utility of our chain, because they don't realize that what for them is one transaction. It's really one transaction. For us, we might be packing in what they would call 100 transactions into just one transaction. So the second Cardano came around, TPS kind of became meaningless, because one transaction with 100 or 300 outputs is very different than one transaction with one output, as you'd see in their blockchains. And the poster here has a full video of himself constructing a transaction like this. Down below, another poster says he does this often on his personal node, and below that, someone else talks about doing it on Typin Wallet. But this is one of those functionalities of Cardano that our competitors in the EVM world can't really match. And the crazy part is there's still this intense asymmetry of information. People don't even know we have this advantage yet. Finally, I love these metaverse previews. Part of the reason I love them so much is because I have no idea which one of these metaverse projects at the end of the day is going to turn out to be the most fun, the best place to chill and hang out, the best place for us, the Army of Spies, to have little maybe Friday night hangouts, which is why I've tried to buy up little AOS beaches, little spy beaches in all of the big metaverses. Not every single metaverse out there, but I've tried to make a bunch of different bets just in case one of them turns out really awesome. And it's a place where we'll want to have these little Army of Spies hangouts. So here is Virtua giving us another one of these previews. This time it's of the fan cave that will come with the large land plots on Cardano Island. And if you're a collector of NFTs, if you've got a lot of these NFTs, it looks like, especially if they're ones that are 3D rigged to work in Virtua, this looks like a pretty good place to display your NFTs. You can see there's plenty of wall space here too for 2D NFTs as well. But kind of an interesting thing, I haven't seen anything quite like this in Cardano, where someone who's really into NFT collecting could display all of their NFTs in one place. I've heard a lot of talk. I've heard a lot of different projects talking about creating something like this, but this is the first walkthrough of this type that I've actually seen. So hopefully the rest of Cardano Island will turn out to be awesome as well. I hope it'd be great if all of the metaverse projects turned out to be excellent, so we have a bunch of choices for our Friday night Army of Spies hangouts. Hope you're having a great week, and I will talk to you tomorrow.